Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. It's just the two of us tonight as Joseph and myself discuss how Brighton and Hove Albion ran out 3-0 winners over Leeds United. Yes, Joe, the Leeds United, the single greatest football entity on the planet, graced us with their presence down at the Amex at the weekend. And would you believe it, we only went and beat the biggest team that has ever existed. But before we get into that, Joe, how are you? I haven't seen your beautiful face in a while.
It's been a while, Tom. Yeah, I am good. It's been a full-on few weeks. I actually started last week's podcast with the puppy in my arms because we needed a little bit of eye bleach after two terrible results. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, but we're getting there. And yeah, feeling good. So, how are you? It's been a while since we've seen your lovely face.
Yeah, I've just been ridiculously busy. Been half term for me. So the last two podcasts I've not been able to do because I've just been inundated with stuff. Adulting is tough, isn't it? As I'm sure we can all attest to. Good evening, viewers who are joining us live on the show tonight. Good evening, Michael. Good evening, Joanna. Good evening, Judy. Please grace us with your comments throughout the show as we discuss stuff. As it's only the two of us today, just myself and Joe, I want to open it up as much as possible, get you guys in the comments, letting us know how you think and what you think about. Lots to chat about today. I am, Joe, just going to take it a little bit back, though, and I'm going to talk about the game against the Arsenal, which I'm sure you and Dagan chatted about. But I would just like to get your opinion on a few things, if I may. One of the things I wanted to chat to you about was Mr. Buscagli, because many people, before a ball was kicked against the Leeds United, were calling for a change in the back line. Obviously, up until yesterday, Brighton hadn't kept a clean sheet this season. A lot of people were calling for a change at the back. What did you make of the back line? Of course, it was a back three in the cup game against Arsenal. What did you make of the back line there?
Yeah, I enjoyed the shape. As me and Dagan spoke about, that shape gave us a really solid platform to move forward and allow our attacking three to have a little bit more of a sort of creative freedom. And then we changed it back to a back four, and we took away the things that we were doing well. So it was nice to see that because we've been calling for a back three for a while. I know that you suggested in pre-season that we might be moving towards that considering our summer signings, but I think maybe our hand's been forced a little bit in terms of Adam Webster's injury. So we've had to opt with the back four, and up until now, it's not got us anything decent in the Premier League. We've only just got our first clean sheet for this season in the league. So I think people were well within their rights to be calling for a change to the back line to try and solidify that and get that first clean sheet as well, because it gives you a level of comfort knowing that you can keep a clean sheet if push comes to shove. If you can keep a clean sheet every game, worst comes to worst, you're going to draw the game 0-0, and it will get you a point. So, yeah, I think people were well within their rights to ask for Buscagli to come in, but as we'll talk about as we go on in this podcast, Lewis Dunk, as you've got a shirt behind you, has been absolutely excellent. So it's hard for Buscagli and Coppola to come in when you've got such an established back two in JP and Dunkey.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Michael in the comments saying, not only commenting on my beautiful moustache, but also commenting about not being convinced by Coppola and Buscagli. I think that's fair, Michael. I think obviously up until the Arsenal game, we'd only really seen them against lower league opposition in Oxford and Barnsley. So totally fair. Obviously, huge gap in quality between those two sides and Premier League opposition. My only sort of counterpoint to that would be we haven't seen them at Premier League level, so really it's sort of not much to go on. Michael saying as well that Joel, yeah, I think that's true as well. Like, Joel Veltman gives us so much solidity at the back. In a way, perhaps Matt Vifa and Ferdy Kadioglu don't, but they all bring something to the party. And I've given Dagan a bit of a little stat to go and research about in regards to Vifa and his ball progression. So it'll be interesting to see when he drops that on X about that bits of information. But I think for me, Joe, the reason I bring up the Arsenal game was because I really liked, as you sort of alluded to, really liked the shape against Arsenal. I thought it brings out the best in Maxime de Kuyper and Ferdy, because they can just focus on the attacking sense, knowing that they've got the fullbacks, the wide centre backs behind them, sort of covering them as they got bombed forward. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think there was a few times where Leeds certainly sort of got in behind Ferdy yesterday, but more on that in a bit. So yeah, I was a bit surprised, Joe, that we started with a back four, considering how well we looked with a back three against Arsenal. Were you surprised at the change in formation, or were you just sort of like, this is how we play in the Premier League, it is what it is?
Yeah, no surprises really. I think Hertzler maybe saw the Arsenal game as a little bit of a free hit, and I know that we want our chairman has said we want silverware, so maybe some fans are frustrated that we've tried to experiment in that game and not just stuck to what we know and what we know we're good at. But again, the experiment worked in the first half, so you could also argue that he should have at least tried it against a lesser opposition in the Premier League. But I think he needed to make a statement win at home against one of the promoted three. It's been a grim reading over the last God knows how long. I think you said in the chat, Tom, the last time we beat a promoted side was Luton, like 2 seasons ago. So I thought it was really, really sort of solid team selection. As you said, the only things was the fullbacks, and I think it was a manager's instruction for Kadioglu to tuck a little bit narrower and allow Diego Gomez to track their right back, which I don't think Diego did a very good job of. And once that had been noticed, I thought Ferdy dealt with it quite well. It was sort of like a inverted type thing that was going on. But again, that shows our manager is more than capable of looking at tactical sides of the game and correcting them if they're not working during the game. So, other than that, really solid starting lineup, I thought.
Yeah, I read an interesting stat on North Stand chat, Joe. I don't know if you saw it, but yesterday was Herzler's 48th Premier League game in charge, and he's yet to name an unchanged side. Obviously, last season especially, there were a lot of injuries, but even so, he does like to tinker with the side, even when people are available. I think that do you think that could possibly be a reason that we are so inconsistent? I mean, I'm all for the process of picking the best 11 to face any given opposition. I'm all for that, but there has to come to a point where if players know who's going to be playing alongside, they can start building those relationships. I mean, we talked about under De Zerbi how he kept changing the goalkeepers, and that was clearly didn't work. We've talked about the amazing relationship that Jorginho Ruta and Danny Welbeck seemingly have. So where do you stand on the sort of the chopping and changing, unless it's in the case it's not enforced, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, one frustration I had was our hand was forced when we played Newcastle. Diego Gomez was playing on the left-hand side, and he got injured, and then Ferdy had to come on to play that role. And I thought that the De Kuyper and Kadioglu partnership was a fantastic balance to the Weaver and Minter partnership on the other side. And then we didn't see it again, and then we still haven't seen it again. So I sort of stand with that, and you look at the inconsistencies in the team sheets. Yeah, I think you would be crazy not to sort of suggest that that could play a part in the reason as to why we can't string a few consistent results together. But also, I think that he's still trying to just work out, and it sounds crazy at this stage, what his best team is. So, I completely understand the impatience, because I think for me, when that team sheet came out, I'm like, why isn't De Kuyper and Kadioglu starting when it works so well? So I think we just need to start seeing more of that. Obviously, we're seeing the partnership of JP and Dunkey, which has been built from a while back. The partnership of Jorginho and Welbeck, which has only really started at the start of this season because we had João Pedro last season. So those partnerships are coming, and I think obviously the Minter and Vifa link up for the first goal was absolutely excellent. So if they can get that telepathic sort of moves going, then we're going to look like free-flowing football. It's just about how we can recover those partnerships in transition and knowing where people are going to be and when you need to track back because the other one's gone too far.
Yeah, very well said, Joe. Very well said indeed. So let's dive into our match analysis then, Joe. I mean, you were there, as was our beautiful friend Phil, all the way from Australia. We did try and get him on tonight, but he is otherwise engaged up in London watching some men in pads punch each other for 10 seconds and then rest for 4 hours. Love you really, Phil. And that's the NFL, if anyone's wondering what sport I'm alluding to. No, I joke. Of course, it's a sport. But anyway, let's talk about the Leeds game then, Joe. Obviously, you were there. I was watching on a very, very legal stream and enjoyed our intensity for the first 10 minutes or so. We did have, some early pressure, which was really good to see. We started really strongly, and within the first 11, 12 minutes, we were a goal to the good. And you've already alluded to the goal. It was really nice work started all from a high press. Minte wins the ball. Minte has the ball. He lofts it over for Wifa, which is a beauty of a ball. Wifa then puts it across the 6-yard box for Welbeck to tap in. I mean, Danny Welbeck, there are calls for him to be called up to England as a natural successor to Harry Kane. The man who we all thought was slow, who was like an oil tanker and looked like he was running with lead in his boots at the start of the season, has finally found a bit of form, Joe. And boy, oh boy, is it fun to see.
Yeah, I think for a player at his age and the roles that he's asked to do, it's about getting that sort of momentum going in your performances. And, maybe he thought or felt like he put on a little bit of more muscle than he wanted over the preseason, and then has had to sort of dial it back a little bit. And maybe that's why we're seeing him a bit more athletic now and getting across the pitch and tracking back. And yeah, it's absolutely incredible to watch him just get better with age. And just as you think you're going to write him off, look at what he's done in the last couple of months for us. He's been, the perfect definition of clutch. Just when you need your striker to finish a chance, you want it to fall to Danny Welbeck. And he capitalised on a really good spell of early pressure from us, exactly how I wanted us to come out and put Leeds under pressure, have them moved around a little bit and have them really work for it, because I think sometimes we sort of roll over a little bit and allow teams a little bit more time than we should. And also, I don't think we're ruthless enough and clinical enough at times. So it was really good to see us, really put a foothold in that game really early on.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the not being clinical enough. I think it was about 4 or 5 minutes later, we had a chance to double our lead with Ayari, who really should have, squared it to Welbeck, but he blazed over instead. And after that chance, I think it was fair to say, although they weren't incredibly threatening, we did take our foot off the gas, and we did allow Leeds a few opportunities, especially behind Ferdi Kadioglu. And that's where I sort of think a better Premier League team than Leeds. I mean, to be fair to Leeds, the promoted teams have done better, generally speaking, this season than they have done in previous years. But a better Premier League team would have really, really had a lovely time down our left-hand side. There was the ball in behind Ferdy, and they did have a chance, but luckily for us, Joe, we did manage to sort of defend well in those sort of tight-knit situations. What did you make of the defence in general? Of course, we've talked about it already. They got a clean sheet. That will obviously breed a lot of confidence, but there were moments of all hands to the pump, as it were.
Yeah, and I think to give you the really boring stock manager answer that we hear and get really frustrated over is that we're playing in the Premier League, and every team is a really good team, and if you give them space, you're going to get punished for it, or at least you're going to concede a chance. So I think had we have been playing maybe a team of a higher caliber, and who had like really good clinical wingers, I think we would have seen that Kadioglu de Kuiper left hand side. It gives that balance, and you've got two defensive players. When you're asking Diego Gomez to track back, sometimes that's not what he does. I don't think he's ever been a player that, obviously, he gives 110%. He'll run and he'll track back, but I don't think he's got that defensive awareness that a Ferdy or even a Karim Matoma has. So that partnership for me was just a bit of a mismatch in terms of that, as I said, talk about earlier, that telepathic understanding of when do I need to come and support you. So I think Ferdy was sort of left to do it a bit by himself. So I'm not going to take anything away from Ferdy. I think for the most part, he had a really, really strong game, was dangerous going forwards, and he grew into it. So, and obviously, we all know what happened with Diego Gomez later on in the game. So it was an early spell of pressure that we had to ride, and we rode it well, and we found ways to allow for our left-hand side to be effective going the other way. So that was promising.
Yeah, we certainly did. I mean, it seemed, I don't want to be perceived as negative, because I know apparently if you say anything vaguely sort of constructively critical, you're deemed as negative. But I suppose what I'm getting at is something we've seen a lot this, not maybe under Herzl is a bit harsh, but certainly a lot this season, is that when we get a foothold in a game, take Fulham, for instance, and we go up, our intensity just disappears. And it did after we scored in the first half. And yes, of course, the second half was much better. But would be remiss if we didn't, and if we tried to rewrite history and pretend that didn't happen. Because I suppose it's in those moments where hopefully the team will look back and say, oh yeah, this is what we didn't do very well. There's a couple of times Mats Vifa got breezed past way too easily, almost like he's not a right back. We mopped up defensively, which was fine. A couple of times there's a bit of space down our left-hand side, and we just didn't our pressure just disappeared. And I know you can't keep that up for 90 minutes, but it's something that I think fans, Joe, have really sort of spotted this season. And you yourself have talked about, as a coach, Fabian Herzl always talks about intensity. And there are always large chunks of a game where it all just seems to disappear.
Yeah, and I think before the game, my dad was saying it's about time we just thumped somebody, and just really took a team to the sword. Obviously, the scoreline suggests that we did that, but as you say, in that first half, we really did sort of take a step back when we scored the goal. And I think had we have kept that pressure on, we really would have scored sort of a couple or even three before half time, because we still created chances. Obviously, Danny Welbeck had another one as well that he shot just wide. I think Minte had one as well. So, yeah, we can be disappointed with the fact that we've not gone on and got a couple more, and it would have been a completely different conversation had Leeds have equalised just before half time. But that wasn't the case, and we dealt with their pressure well. Other than the couple that they did create, they really didn't do much else. So I think on a whole, we can just be happy that we rode the wave, and when push came to shove, we put the game away. And that's what I've been really wanting to see, just us put a game to bed and have the team not have any chance to come back, because even at 2-0 under Fabian Herzl, I just feel like any sniff, we're just going to fall apart. So it was really, really refreshing. And Phil's friend Zach, who was with him, said, "This happens every week, right?" Yeah, it happens every week, mate. Get a season ticket; it'll be great fun.
Well, to be fair, most weeks we do have periods of long, as if we're just jogging around a pitch. There was a moment, I think it was the Minter chance, or maybe it was someone else. And I know Minty's quick, but someone was bombing along for a counter attack, and then I think it was just Georgie and WELBZ were just jogging, and you're like, "Come on, lads, you're only at 1-0 up here, and you've got a chance for a counter attack." And I don't want to be too harsh, and I don't want to be seen as the negative one, which I know I already am, because I don't gush or wax lyrical about things. I like to think of things critically examined, is how I like to look at things. So I don't want to come across as like an arse, but yeah, just if it wasn't like a continuous thing, I'd probably be a less dick about
And also, I just want to give a quick nod as well to the comment earlier about your mustache. So Tom has been not shaving his mustache until we keep a clean sheet, just like the Manchester United fan who isn't cutting his hair until they win 5 in a row. So live on the podcast today, Tom is going to shave his mustache.
No, I'm not. But funnily enough, I did start growing the mustache because we all did Movember, 2 years ago? And I've had it since then. I have trimmed it, but yeah, that's the story of the mustache. Not that anyone asked. But anyway, let's talk about better things, Joe. Let's stop me from moaning, shall we? Because the second half was much better. We really came out in the second half with a point to prove, and as you say, you wanted to see us put teams to the sword. And we did. Ruta had a really good chance early on in the half. Minte as well, I think, had one as well. Van Hecker had an opportunity. I think it was more of a half chance. But we put the pressure on, and Leeds, they were just, all the sort of the intensity that they had at the end of the first half was just non-existent. And the second half seemed a lot more easygoing, shall we say. So let's talk about the man Diego Gomez, Joe, a man that, like many other central midfielders at Brighton and Hove Albion over the years, has been asked to play out of position a touch. But yesterday, 2 late runs into the box really sort of seemed to be his bag at the moment. What did you make of Diego Gomez's goal? The first of which, I believe, was our 300th Premier League goal.
There you go. What a lovely feat for Diego Gomez to have. As you know, Tom, I've been a fan of Diego Gomez since the beginning of 2023 when I started watching Inter Miami. He is absolutely fantastic. And he's starting to grow into a physical player who can transfer the skills that he's always had into the Premier League. And you say about him maybe not playing in position, but he's played centre midfield, he's played wide, both flanks for Inter Miami, and I know MLS is a lot easier to sort of get that freedom. But we're seeing him have that freedom in the Premier League, and as you say, arriving late in the box, getting a couple of goals. I was willing for him to get that hat trick as well. I think he had a sort of outside of the boot shot that was really well saved by their keeper, and then he was subbed off. So it was a massive shame. But there was a crazy similarity to all of our goals. Getting to that byline, in behind Leeds, ball back across, goalkeeper and defence are nowhere to be seen, and we've got an open net to put the ball into. So we very much had Leeds' number. We knew how to hurt them tactically, and we operated that fantastically well. And Diego Gomez, how many goals has he scored now this season? 7, I want to say. So he's creeping up alongside Danny Welbeck as a shoe-in for our top scorer this season. So yeah, all credit to him, and I absolutely love watching him at our football club. I think his attitude is fantastic. His smile is just as good as Georgie's. So we love it. Just maybe just under.
You are sorry, Joe. You are right, Michael. It was our 400th. Our 100th was an own goal against Watford, I believe, Mariappa. 200 was a penalty. I think it was Alexis McAllister. 300th was a penalty, João Pedro. 400th was Diego Gomez. So thank you for correcting me there, Michael. Yeah, Diego Gomez. Arrived from obviously playing alongside Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez to playing alongside Adam Webster and Billy Gilmore.
So he massively upgraded.
Yeah, massively so. Wee Billy is clear. Not that he's with us anymore, but you get my point. Yeah, it was. I had a little bit of trepidation about seeing Diego Gomez in an unfamiliar position, especially with Tommy Watson, who's obviously a winger, because why would you replace an injured winger with a winger? But obviously, Diego Gomez has shown that he's got that versatility across the midfield area. And I think yesterday, what I really liked about our performance was the interchanging of positions. I mean, one man we've sort of briefly touched upon, mainly to not criticise, but sort of talk about defensively, was Ferdy. Ferdy was all over the place, and I mean that in the best possible way. He was popping up all over the pitch, and I thought his performance yesterday was, worthy of a man of a match performance. I thought he was genuinely excellent, and I think if Diego Gomez hadn't scored twice, I think he'd probably be in that conversation. So what I really liked yesterday was seeing all those positions and being changed. Vifa as well made some really great inverted runs inside of Minte, which were just fantastic. So I think sort of the way that the team sort of rotate positions is a really sort of really good when it works. And I think we really kept Leeds on our toes. And when you've got your central midfielder popping up in the penalty area and your right back popping over, your left back popping over on the right hand side, and your right back in the penalty area is your striker, it's a really interesting way to watch football. And of course, we almost scored a fourth as well with Yasin Ayari forcing a really fantastic save from the Leeds keeper. I don't think the keeper knew too much about it, but again, Joe, we were knocking on the door, and it was the first time I think in a while that we've really seen that, and it really shows you what Brighton are capable of. So I suppose the question to you then, Joe, is can we be a bit more consistent? I mean, I know we're not going to always play the Leeds United, the greatest football team who has ever lived. But can we start stringing some performances together?
Yeah, I mean, our last podcast was titled "Consistently Inconsistent" for a reason. It's been a mixed bag completely, and emotions have been up and down. But I think it just all comes from a confidence in believing in ourselves and believing that we can control games for 90 minutes and be the team on the front foot for the majority of the game. As I say, in the Premier League, you're not going to get a 90-minute performance where you're on top for the whole time. I think that's a myth, and I think that people should come to that realization that unless a team are terribly, terribly bad, we won't have a game where we're just like Wolves.
Come on, Joe. The teams that are terribly, terribly bad in the Premier League normally beat us.
Exactly.
And Rodders and Michael...
I'm talking about Man City.
Rodders and Michael, you should be glad that that Dagan isn't here, because he would be disagreeing with you quite a lot. He was very vocal about Yasin Ayari giving the ball away quite a lot yesterday. So, but hey-ho.
Anyway. I think there were still flashes, weren't there? A little bit of the Brighton that shoot themselves in the foot. Like I said to Phil at halftime, I was like, I don't know, I could just feel a really terrible mistake happening, and I think that's just what we've come to expect over the last few games.
Yeah, I think I've said it on our podcasts and I've said it in our group chat before. I'm much more confident than when we are a goal behind than when we're a goal ahead. As I've sort of already alluded to on the podcast, it's the drop off of intensity that worries me quite a bit about this side under Fabian Herzler. And as I've already said, I know you can't be that intense for 90 minutes. I know that. But sometimes it is worrying, and we do like to misplace passes or, overplay it. Belabor is famous for it. And we haven't actually talked about Belabor, Joe. Let's talk about Carlos, because I don't know if you know this, Joe, but he's been a bit underperforming this season so far. I know, right? Crazy. He had a few moments yesterday, a few speculative efforts at goal, but he performed pretty well, considering what we have seen so far of him this season. What did you make of Carlos's performance? Is he starting to sort of creep back to the levels that we know that he can do?
I think Carlos's problem is the Carlos of last season. He's set himself. My dad said this to me actually after the game, so I have to give credit to him for this. He's set himself such a high bar, and he's been probably only just below it this season. A few stupid mistakes that have taken him below that bar, and we're up in arms about it because he's been in the press. He's had his head turned by Manchester United, but actually, Carlos Baleba to us a year ago was that talent that was really raw. And I know he's had obviously another year in the Premier League. He's getting another year in the Premier League now, so he is getting better. And we saw that last season. We've seen it in flashes this season that he is a fantastic, Premier League midfielder. He's just set himself such a high bar. I think that's the problem. And if Carlos Baleba doesn't have those speculative efforts at goal, we don't get the West Ham moment that we saw last year. So I think we have to take him as he comes a little bit. He's committed to the club for this year. We should be really happy that we still got him here. And we saw a couple of weeks ago against Newcastle that he is getting back to the very best of his ability. And we've got to be patient with him because he's still so young, and he's still learning. So I think we just have to support him whilst he's here, because he's gonna get much better.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, and I'm sure bit of like many things, like Danny Welbeck, we've already said about him, building his form back. It takes time, and form is temporary, class is permanent, and all that. Let's talk about Danny Welbeck, Joe. Let's talk about. We've always sort of talked about the goal, but let's give more airtime, I suppose, to Danny Welbeck for England. Danny Welbeck hasn't played for the England national side for quite a while now, a number of years. Of course, Harry Kane, who's doing excellently for Bayern Munich by all accounts, is of course England's star striker. But there's always a worry that if Harry Kane is injured, there isn't a like-for-like replacement for the sort of player that Harry Kane is. Of course, you've got Ollie Watkins. But apart from Ollie Watkins, who is an entirely different breed of striker, there isn't the sort of similar, classic number 9, you might say. So has Danny Welbeck, at the age of 34, 35, has he, in your eyes, earned himself to be at least considered? Because he's the highest scoring Englishman in the Premier League.
Exactly what I was about to say. I think you're absolutely spot on in terms of his similarity to Harry Kane, the way he likes to have his back to goal, draw that ball to him like a magnetic force and then allow his team to bomb on forwards. He also drops deep to receive the ball from times. And his tracking back and his energy is so good at the moment. I don't think Thomas Tuchel can look past him. I really, really don't. If he doesn't get called up, and I'm not saying this through Albion tinted glasses, I think he's a shoo-in for it. And why wouldn't you? You want that experience as well. If you're, as a manager, you're not thinking long term for the future of English football, you're thinking, I'm here to win England a World Cup. How do I do that? What balance do I bring on that plane to get us over the line? I mean, I'm not saying Danny Welbeck's going to win the World Cup for England. I would love it if he did. But when you look at, obviously, Harry Kane's really experienced now, and then the other couple of attacking players we've got, there isn't that experience. Obviously, Ollie Watkins played in the Euros last year and done fantastically well, scored a really important goal. And as you say, is a completely different type of striker. So if you want that striker to come on in Harry Kane's absence and do the same job, Danny Welbeck is your man. I cannot think of anyone else right now that can do that same job.
Yeah, I agree. My only reluctance would be, Joe, and I don't know if you share this, is Danny's injury record. We know how well he did last season to play as much as he did, and I think it would be fair to say that a lot of people were quite surprised at how many games he played for us last season. Would you be worried that the additional load of games might have a negative impact on his fitness? And yes, hello, Curtis. I love you.
That is a fantastic comment, Curtis. That has tickled me. I love it. I don't think we should worry about that. I think he would go into an England camp not being a player that's going to play a lot. I think he would be a player that, as I say, only comes in if and when Harry Kane can't do the job. And Harry Kane is 9 times out of 10 available. I think it would be great for him on a personal level to get back into the England camp and have that experience again. And just a fantastic thing for the club. Again, you know, when Lewis Dunk got called up for England, when Ben White got called up, it was such an incredible feeling. And I know Ben White was obviously linked to Arsenal at the time. I didn't hear you, Tom. Still can't hear you, mate. I think he's saying free Ben White. So I still can't hear you, Tom. We still can't hear you, Tom. Tom's having technical difficulties. Whilst Tom tries to figure it out, I'll carry on talking about Danny Welbeck for England. I just think it would be a fantastic thing for the club. And as you say, Michael, in the chat, his experience is his biggest asset. So bring it on. And I say, Tommy Tuchel, call him up right now. We will send you his number. And if you don't want his number, I will have it so he can come and play for my five-a-side team. Are you alive, Tom?
Well, I am. Can you hear me?
I can.
I don't know what happened there. I've unplugged my microphone and plugged it back in. So
classic.
Yeah, classic.
What do you think, Tom? What would a Danny Welbeck call up for England mean for you?
I mean, it'd be, Brighton having an England striker in the team would be amazing. It'd be fantastic for the club, as you say, fantastic for Danny Welbeck. I'd worry about like the extra training load and all that sort of stuff because, as excited as I was, and I was a very big advocate of, we need to see Simas, we need to see him more. If Welbeck did get injured, I think we'd look very light up top. So that would be my only slight worry, but that's a very selfish worry. And what I was saying as I was muted, Joe, as I was saying about free Ben White, it just seemed appropriate considering we just played Leeds.
Oh, I guessed. Yeah, I did say free Ben White. So absolutely free. The best part about that free Ben White campaign, and I know we're completely going off track here, was the fact that when he when it was confirmed that he was staying, he got given the number 3.
I really like to think that he asked for that.
I do too.
Joe, let's get back to the Leeds game. And I'm actually just going to round it off before we talk about the next game. I want you to just pick a player. It doesn't have to be your man of the match, because I think we can all agree it was Diego Gomez. But if you had to pick a player just to talk about, positive, negative, whatever, who would you pick and why?
I've probably taken your pick, Tom, here. So do I say it? Sod it, I'm going to say it. You can talk about him if you want as well. Lewis bloody Dunk. Absolutely fantastic. The more and more people try to write him off, he just comes back stronger. Calvert-Lewin as well, a striker that he has historically struggled against a little bit. And I know Calvert-Lewin's drop-off has been pretty dramatic since his Everton days. Dealt with him really well. Both him and JP had a really good understanding. JP was excellent as well. His progressive passes as a centre back were fantastic to watch. But yeah, Lewis Dunk just really, really solid throughout. Maybe sort of one or two hairy moments. But other than that, I think for me, Lewis Dunk was my man of the match. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, he was colossal yesterday. And I wondered, Joe, if we know we've already talked a little bit about back threes, Buscaglia, Coppola. Do you think that for the first time in perhaps quite a while, Lewis Dunk is having to play for his place? He is the captain, and I think there's always been a sense that it doesn't matter what form Lewis Dunk's in, he's the captain, he plays. But do you think we're now seeing a Lewis Dunk that is going, oh crap, my spot is actually up for grabs here?
It's a hard one to gauge, isn't it? As you say, because he's the captain, and Fabian Hertzler has said so much in the press about his support for his captain, and him always being there for the team. But when I'm sure it's just a natural thing in football when the club bring in two talents in Coppola and Buscaglia in your position, you buck your ideas up a little bit, and you know that two incredibly talented centre backs are waiting and breathing down your neck to take your position if you're not hitting the heights that you should be. But again, how much is enough when you've got such a positive duo in JP and Dunkey, having not kept a clean sheet. The calls, as I said at the start of the show, were right. We should be seeing a change if we're vulnerable there. But I think yesterday they really proved that they've still got it in them to keep that clean sheet. And I was delighted to see Bart Verbruggen's celebration at full time. He looked incredibly, incredibly happy with that. Also, just want to give a nod quickly to the comments in the chat. Wardy and Steve Foster at half time chatting about their England legacy caps and a few other things. I can't exactly remember what they were talking about because I was talking to Phil because he was there from Australia. So, but yeah, great to see them too. And what Julie's saying, I thought Foster looked ill. I really hope he isn't. And if he is, we wish him all the best.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, poor Fozzie. Love Fozzie. I'm going to come to your point, Rodders, about Buscaglia in a minute because he's one that I'm really intrigued by. But I'm just going to do my player, and I'm going to agree with you, Michael, and Ferdy. Ferdy really caught my eye yesterday. I think that he was a player that when we signed him, I was really, really excited to see. And then obviously last season he scored his goal at Anfield against Liverpool, and I was thinking, yes, we finally got a right back. And then unfortunately he got, what was it, a toe injury? And then we didn't see him again. And
This
it was
club are cursed with right backs. We're absolutely cursed.
I don't know if we're cursed with right backs. It's just our injury. A player has a minor injury and we don't see them for months and months and months. It just is genuinely baffling. I don't know if that's like a communication thing or we want to keep things under wraps. I don't know. But yeah, he just disappeared. We didn't really see him again. So to have him back this season, it feels like a new signing. And his energy is just he's like a Craig McHale-Smith, but in defense. He just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. And it just, as I said earlier, he was picking up positions that weren't the positions you'd expect of your left back. He was all over the place. And I said that in the best possible way. And it was just really exciting to see. And he must be an absolute nightmare to mark because, of course, these days, players are doing more man-to-man marking. And if he was your man, you'd be thinking, God Almighty, if he's going here, there, and everywhere, I can't track him because I just can't. And I think he really gave Leeds a bit of a headache with some of the positions he was picking up. So, yeah, just that relentless energy, his positions, his willingness to come back and defend. And as you say, Joe, after those few times that they did get behind him, sort of just dropping back a little bit deeper as well at times. Yeah, really, really, really good. So big fan of Ferdy, and I really hope that we can see more of him on the pitch with Maxim de Kuiper as well. God, I'd love to play a back three. But Joe, I just want to come to this point that Rod has made about Buscagli, about saying it'd be amazing if he was given the chance. Oliver Buscagli is 27 years old. I don't think he's come to Brighton to sit on the bench. It's and this is what I talk about back three, because our squad just seems so suited to a back three. And I hope he's happy. But of course, we're now out of the League Cup, so he's not going to get minutes there. The FA Cup won't be around for a little bit longer now. It's really difficult to see how Oliver Buscagli fits in if we're going to continue playing a back four. And as I say, if you're 27 years old, you're not going to really want to be a bench warmer at that age because you're at your peak. So it must be quite frustrating for Oliver Buscagli, perhaps less so for Diego Coppola, who's younger. But how do you keep him happy, Joe? How do you keep these people happy?
You let him do whatever he wants and give him lots of time off. I'm sure that's exactly what Premier League footballers do. I think even more so now we've kept a clean sheet. But then I say that, as we said at the start of the show, Hertzler likes to change things that work. So maybe we might see a back three against Crystal Palace and Buscagli come in. But as well, I think he must be concerned as well, because when we're trying to shore things up in defence, when we're trying to hold on to something, Coppola's the one that comes on. And it's a choice there. And naturally, because he's bigger, he's a bit more no nonsense, just clear it. Whereas Buscagli likes to sort of play with the ball at his feet. So I hate to say it, but I think his only chance is going to come if Touchwood, Lewis Dunk, or JP Van Hecke get injured. And if it's Dunky, I think Coppola comes in. If it's JP, no, other way around. If it's JP, I think Coppola comes in. If it's Dunky, then I think Buscagli comes in. So yeah, really interesting to see. As you say, FA Cup isn't until mid-January. So yeah, it's a headache that I'm sure Hertzler doesn't like to have. And I think it was quoted in the press last week saying about his game time and that he would like to have more. So starting to be a little bit of unrest maybe. And as you say, naturally so. He's 27. He doesn't want to just sit on a bench.
Yeah, again, with Matoma out, you've only got, one natural winger that Hertzler seems to want to play. Just play a back three, mate. Come on.
But Tom, we just kept a clean sheet and it worked. Why change it?
Because our next opponents are quite pacey on the counter-attack, Joe. I don't know if you know this. So let's talk about the next one. Joe, who are we playing next?
The McDonald's B team. I wish.
Well, not to rehash old wounds, but last year Fabian Hersler did not have a good time.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Our next opponents. Yes, of course, I'm talking about that lot up the road who have started the season really quite well. They currently sit just above us, and they've actually only got one more point than us, which I find a bit surprising, considering.
It's a question for you then, Tom. If you think they've started well, and I know you're not the negative one, like it's a weird thing, isn't it?
But I think it's probably because of who they've played and who they've beaten. The fact that they've got 2 bits of silverware in the last few months. So I think it's probably that feel-good factor that's rolling on. But yeah, everyone, there's a lot of positivity in terms of like the pundits talking about Palace at the moment. But they're our next opponents. They sit above us in the table by a singular point. That lot up the road last year, Joe, they did us dirty twice. There's no nice way to say it. Hersler got some choice words from fans after losing both the games for the first time since like the 1960s or 70s or something. I can't remember. I choose not to remember. What does he need to do this time differently, Joe? What does he need to do? Is it an understanding of the rivalry? Is it matching them up because they do play a 3-4-2-1? What does he have to do?
Yeah, I don't think it's an understanding of the rivalry. I only like Lewis Dunk will truly ever understand that, and obviously Wilfred Zaha and the people that have been historically involved within that rivalry. In terms of Premier League, it comes down to how you operate tactically and the players you put out onto the pitch. The issue is we're going up against a fantastic tactician in Oliver Glasner, who can seem to time and time again break teams that can't work him out. Obviously, Pep Guardiola hasn't had the best time against him. Arne Slot hasn't had the best time against him recently as well. So Unai Emery, Aston Villa can't seem to beat Crystal Palace either. So, you know, we won't be the only ones, and Hurtsler won't be the only one that has difficulties against Glasner. But yeah, we just need to go out there, same as we did against Leeds, which is a little bit harder to do against Palace because of how hard they can hit you on the counter. But we need to see that football with intensity, because if we turn up there and we play passive and to sort of let them come onto us and try and soak up the pressure and they get through like they did again at Selhurst Park. I think they scored in the first 2 minutes last season. So we need to keep it tight. We need to stay in the game and just maybe ride our luck a little bit, because it's going to be a really tough game. I absolutely hate to give them credit, but they can really hurt you. So we've got to be careful.
Yeah, they can hurt you. They've I'm just looking at their fixtures now. They've lost. They've beaten Liverpool in the cup, in the league, and yeah, it's just they're doing well. I'm just looking at their fixtures. They lost to Everton, which is a bit of an outlier. They drew against high flying Bournemouth, and then they've lost to Arsenal. So, you know, they're doing all right. And as you say, it's interesting to see the different sort of outlook on them compared to us. They do play a game on the Thursday against AZ Alkmaar in the Conference League, so they will probably be a bit more fatigued than us. So we should have the freshness on our side to combat them. And this is where I'm talking about, like a back three might be useful against their pace, because they like to hit teams in transition and on the counter attack. So maybe playing a back three might be beneficial for us. But yeah, it's a difficult one, and I really feel like if we can get a positive result, it could really sort of help that propel us into the next phase of the league season, if you like. It's been a really inconsistent start. I don't think the international breaks have helped in that regard. Which is ironic, because after that game, there's another international break, I believe. Another one. So yeah, it's been difficult to get ahead of steam up. So we'll be able to cope with that. I mean, Joanna's just said in the comments, this is where she worries about Dunk. He was brilliant yesterday, but against the speed of their break, we could be worrying. And this is, same with Mats Vifa as well. This is a game where I'd really consider putting Kadioglu and De Kuyper on as the fullback options. And yeah, if we match them up, as Rodders says, because Glasner plays three at the back, matching them up might be a good tactic, Joe. If it were you, what would you do?
Put out 11 and hope for the best.
A strong tactic.
I think I would stick with what we played against Leeds. Maybe with the exception of, I would possibly bring Kadioglu to right back and De Kuyper to left back. And I know I've spoken about their partnership up the left-hand side. I don't feel this is a game to operate that system. But I feel like we need two fullbacks who won't get burnt for pace. Mats Vifa. But, you know, not taking nothing away from Mats Vifa, he got the assist, and, you know, it was excellent going forwards. And I think he's a very good technical player. I would just really like to see him played in midfield, Mr. Hurtsler, please. But yeah, why change it again? So I think we just go with what we had, with the exception of the fullbacks.
Fair. And just before we sign off, Joe, can I please get a score prediction?
Well, I predicted Albion 3, Leeds 0 last week. So Mystic Joe is going to predict Albion 3, Crystal Palace 2. Danny Welbeck hat-trick.
Oh, that would be spicy.
Tommy Tuchel, get him on the plane.
But don't work him too hard, please. We kind of need him. Yeah, it's a difficult one to see us keep a clean sheet. But they could be like buses. You could wait ages for one, and then two come along in quick succession. So channeling that positivity, I'm gonna go for 2-0 to the Albion. Danny Welbeck with one, and Diego Gomez with the other. Because again, Diego Gomez likes to score in bursts. So let's hope that. But Julie's gone for 2-1 in the comments. Rodders has gone for I'll take a draw against Palace. Ooh, yeah. Let's yeah. Would you take a draw, Joe? If someone said to you right now, Joe,
yes,
I've got a draw for you. You take one.
Yeah,
100%. Fair. Yeah, it's yeah. I think I probably would as well.
Take one and then beat him at the Amex.
Yeah, I think just to get us all the fans back together, because what I worry about, worry is a bit strong, because I know Tony Bloom is made of strong integrity. I think the rumblings around Hurstler losing to Palace again would be quite horrible, especially going into an international break.
I think on the back of a negative result against Leeds, it would have been even worse. So I'm glad that we got a clean sheet and a 3-0 win against Leeds, because I feel like, as you say, if someone came to you and asked you for it to be a draw, you would take it right now. Just depends on the context of the draw. If we come back and draw the game, that would be great. If we're 1-0 up or 2-0 up, Mr. Hurstler, then that might be a different story.
Yeah, it certainly would. I don't think I could take the pain if we were 2-0 up and we conceded to that lot up the road. Yeah. But hey ho, a positive result against Leeds should hopefully propel us to a good performance against that lot from up the road. And of course, we are only 3 points off of third placed Liverpool, who their season has been bonkers, hasn't it? We'd all pegged them to be running away with the league once they signed Isak, but apparently not. So it goes to show you that young players, young coaches, takes time to gel. And let's hope that we can get the best out of our lads as we tootle up the road to play that lot. Thank you for joining me this evening, Joseph, and thank you for all of the lovely people who have joined us live on the podcast. Thank you for your comments. They are always much, much appreciated. If you are joining us later on after the fact on the YouTube, please drop us your thoughts down below. Let us know your score predictions for Palace and how you thought the team did against the Leeds United. The Leeds United, Joe.
I know.
Leeds United.
I felt so honoured to be able to watch us beat them again at the Amex. Just beautiful.
What a wonderful, wonderful thing. So all that's left to say, Joseph, is if you haven't done so already, please consider like, share, and subscribing for more content if you haven't already done so. And we'll see you next time. So wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we'll see you later. Take care.